What's going on, guys? It's Bear here with the Scryguystv, and I have personally scoured the Magic the Gathering databases to bring you cards that I feel like are underrated and are good for a budget for Commander. Let's go ahead and check these out. We have Credit Voucher. It is a 2-drop artifact. Pay 2, sacrifice it, shuffle any number of cards into your library, then draw that many cards. It is doing its best impression of Scroll Rack. What I do like about it is, 1, it's colorless, so it can go into any deck, and 2, you're not going to just draw into the same other cards as you would with Scroll Rack. Now, I know Scroll Rack, if you're playing it in a different type of deck, you're manipulating in a different type of way, but this one, at least, it shuffles your library so you can kind of get into different cards, hopefully. Cross hands. And if you're playing an artifact deck, then you should be able to recur this pretty often and just use that effect over and over again. Definitely worth a tryout if you're looking for more card draw in your deck and if you're not playing the colors that draw efficiently. Let's go to our next one. We got Crystal Ball. It is trying its hardest to be a replacement for Sensei's Divining Top, but it is a 3-drop artifact. Pay 1, scry 2. Now that's not a lot. It's not exciting. There's a lot of things that do it better, but it's a budget card. It's like under $1. I think it's like 50 cents. Definitely worth the pickup to try it out if you're playing on a budget. And now that we had Lord of the Rings come out, that one had a lot of Scry Matter cards. Let's go and look at that. We have Lost Isle of Calling, Elrond, Elminster, which cares about how many times you scry, because then it has a static effect where instants and sorceries cost less for the amount that you scryed for. Elvish Mariner, another thing that go ahead and scry 2, tap 2 creatures down. Galadriel is another good one. And Eligeth, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but every time you scry, you draw that many cards instead. So with Crystal Ball, tap 1, draw 2, not a bad rate for that. But yeah, definitely worth the check out if you want to go ahead and try to smooth out your draws a little bit more. Maybe you're just drawing into too many lands and there's just more lands on top, so you can go ahead and pitch those away, and then hopefully at the upkeep, pay 1, scry 2 again, and then, you know, so on and so forth. Lost Isle of Calling is also good because this one's whenever you scry, you know, and then if you can go ahead and pay 6 and possibly, you know, take an extra turn. Obviously, everyone's going to see it coming, but, you know, then they waste a removal on that. And then with Elrond and Galadriel and Elvish Mariner, those are creature matter type of things. It's just really good. Definitely worth a check out, especially if you're playing these decks or these cards. Just another way to slot in and another way to Sensei's Divining Top. You know what I mean? Let's look at our... Okay, Suspend. It is a 1 blue for Modern Horizons 2. Exile target creature and put 2 time counters on it. If it doesn't have Suspend, it gains Suspend. So exiling effects aren't really blue's thing. That's more like white with Path to Exile and Source of Plowshare. But go ahead and do this to someone's commander. For the most part, they might just put it back into the command zone just in case they don't want to lose access to it, right? Because if someone go ahead and puts a Containment Priest, it just gets exiled anyway. But it's for one mana, it gets rid of a creature for at least 2 turns. You know, someone drops a Nyx Bloom Ancient, a Vorinclex, you're like, all right, I need that gone immediately. And this is definitely one of those cards you can go ahead and do with. It doesn't give it a creature like Pongify or Rabbit Hybridization does. Just definitely worth a tryout if if you're looking for more removal in your blue colored decks. Sometimes counter spells don't do it, you know what I mean? So definitely worth a tryout. It at least gets rid of a creature for 2 turns if you're not hitting their commander. Wash Away, 1 blue. It has cleave for 1 and 2 blue. Counter target spell, and then if you play for the cleave cost, that wasn't cast for. If the brackets I always get mixed up with. If you don't pay the cleave cost, it only can counter spells from exile or from not the hand, and if you pay 3, it's just a cancel, right? But this one is just gonna mainly hit commanders. It's a 1 mana counter spell counter commander. It's definitely taken me by surprise a couple times. But yeah, I think it's like a buck or two, maybe at the most, but it's definitely worth a try out. I mean, it's uncommon. It's a 1 mana, get rid of someone's commander. That's always rough, right? Blue is always kind of rough to do. It's always counter stuff and draw cards, but this is definitely worth the pickup. It's at 1 mana. It's why not? We have Disconcerting Financier, 2 and a white. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, create a treasure, and then you could do 2 and a white. Choose another player. That player gains control of target treasure you control, and then draw a card. There's a lot on this. This just released from Wassel Drain, and I know it's too early to be talking about it, but I really do love this card, especially for cards like for white. You know, for the most part, people are gonna have more lands than you, so it's gonna go ahead and ramp you that way. And then if you need the card draw, you give a treasure to someone who maybe is struggling more than you, and then you get to go ahead and draw a card. You could also do that at instant speed too, so you can go ahead and give them the treasure at their end step, and then play this, draw a card, and then at your upkeep gain another treasure, and then hopefully, yeah, it's just a really good value piece. If someone wants to remove it, it's eating up removal, but at the most part, it's all upside, really. You know, no one has, you know, obviously there's Smothering Tide that's going to be better for you, but this is 50 cents. Smothering Tide is, I believe, right now at the time of recording, maybe $15 to $20. It did just have a reprint 2 times in Double Masters and Wassel Drain, but it's still sort of retaining its price at least. It's, you know, it's not, I don't think it's going to be ever below $8 or $10. So for budget builds, this is definitely worth a try out, and it's a human too for human decks. So check that out. Try it out. You know what I mean, guys? Try it out. And then we have Inheritance. It is a one drop enchantment. It's been errated, so whenever a creature dies, you may pay 3 and draw a card. It's a draw spell in white from I forgot. I always forget the sets. I'm sorry, guys. But yeah, obviously if you're gonna be playing against people that are doing a lot of whole, like what's it called, aristocrats type of effects, maybe they have a grave crawler, and I know you're not going to be able to draw like a bunch of cards from this, but at least for white, pay 3 however many times you can to just try to refill your hand as much as possible. This is really great. I think it's overlooked. It's a 1 drop, so you can just go ahead and drop it turn 1, and then by turn 3 or 4 or whatever, you're going to be able to at least draw a card once in a while. It doesn't say your creature. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't specify that, and there's no limitations to it. So if you also get into a fact of maybe you have this in a maybe Abzan type of deck, or not an Abzan, but like a Bant type of deck, you've maybe gone into a cycle of being able to create infinite mana. Maybe you're sacking things and being able to bring them back somehow. You're going to be able to draw your deck out. That is like Christmas land scenario, but if at least once or twice per cycle you're able to pay 6, draw 2 cards, that's not really a bad rate, and this card is under $1. And if you're playing Enchantress, then it's an easy slot into. It's a 1 drop. Go ahead and just draw a card, and then, you know, and maybe there's a board wipe. You maybe have 9, you know, a couple, you know, some mana untapped. You can go ahead and at least take advantage of that situation and draw some cards. We have Soul Exchange. It is a 2 black sorcery. Sacrifice a creature but removing it from the game instead. So you exile a creature, and then you can go ahead and bring back a creature. It is a 2 mana reanimate. One thing is though, you do have to, as an additional cost, you have to sacrifice one of your creatures. Go ahead and sacrifice one of your little tokens, man. You have Eldrazi spawn tokens. Maybe you have a zombie token, and then maybe you have an Archon of Cruelty chilling in the graveyard. For 2 mana, go ahead and do that. It is great. It's a budget reanimate. You know, obviously there's reanimate, there's Dance of the Dead, there's There's a couple things. I can't remember them all on the top of my head. But there's a bunch of reanimate spells there. Some of them are a little bit more expensive. This is, I believe, in the dollar range. So definitely worth a try out if you need more reanimation in your decks. Makeshift Mannequin, 3 and a black instant. Return target creature card from your library to the battlefield with a mannequin counter on it for as long as that creature has the counter on it. When it becomes target of a spell or an ability, sacrifice it. So it almost becomes like an illusion creature. I believe a lot of those creatures have that what's it called, downside as well. When they get targeted, you have to sacrifice it. But hey, maybe it's at instant speed. Maybe you're just trying to get a Ravenous Chupacabra, a Noxious Gearhulk, something that you just need for the turn to go ahead and impact the board or save yourself at that. Maybe you have a Dockside Extortionist in the graveyard. Go ahead and do this at instant speed, and then you have a Dockside Extortionist. There's a lot of things that you could bring back, and the fact that this is at instant speed makes it even better. You just need it for the one-time use, obviously. So definitely, and this card came out in Lorwyn, and that set, I think it's Arch Enemy. But yeah, definitely worth a try out. Check it out. Try it out. It's 4 mana. I know that's a little bit, it's a lot, but it's at instant speed. So come on, guys. Next we have Overmaster, 1 red sorcery. The next instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn can't be countered by spells or ability. Draw a card. Now I know this is an all-star in those coin flip decks. Oh god, what is that card? Yeah, it's the Goblin where you flip a coin and then maybe you draw, maybe you cast a spell, maybe you don't, whatever. But definitely just red always has a hard time against mono blue decks or any kind of deck that's gonna counter your spell. And then so you want to play this right before you want to play your big spell. Like maybe you're gonna Crackle with Power in a Rowan deck, so you cast Overmaster so nobody can counter that. Or maybe you're going to Peer into the Abyss, cast this. It's just, there's a lot that you can cast, and you know, and if somebody wants to waste a counterspell on this, then they waste a counterspell, and then you don't really lose anything. Maybe you can still cast your other spells and they don't get countered because they've wasted their counterspell on this, which I mean, most people won't waste their counterspell on this. They just let it happen. But sometimes, you know, it's a game-ending counter sorcery spell or instant spell, and then you're just gonna hope that other players are gonna have responses to the next thing that's gonna come after this, because you definitely don't want someone to get free reign on an expropriate, especially if they're able to cheat in and expropriate. So definitely worth the try out, and plus it draws you a card, so it's a cantrip as well. So or maybe the cantrip will get them into the bigger spell that they need. Who knows? I think the possibilities for this card is super endless. We have Cave-In, 3 and 2 red sorcery. You may remove a red card from your hand, from the game instead of paying the mana cost. Cave-In deals 2 damage to each creature and each player. It's a free token board wipe type of effect. Also, it'll because it hits each player, it'll trigger additional effects that need non-combat damage. So if you have the new Indomitable, the 4-drop red creature from Phyrexia, the one that has the Phyrexian thing where if you deal non-combat damage, it deals double that or something like that. Torbrand decks, it's good for that as well. The new red Virtue, which is going to draw you, I believe, if you have a full table at this point, 2-4, it'll draw you 6. Oh, it'll exile 6 cards. And then the fact that it's free, you know, you just go ahead and exile whatever red card you have in here, and then you can mostly clear the board if you're playing against token decks, or maybe you're playing against some people that have a lot of mana dorks out. It's going to clear the board for free. Definitely worth a check out, trying it, slotting it in. It really all just depends on your play group. Maybe your play group play a lot of mana dorks, maybe they like to play a lot of tokens. This is definitely worth a try out, so check it out. And then we have What's in Future, 3 and a green from the original Eldraine. Instant, return target card from your graveyard to your hand, put up to 1 other card from your graveyard on top of your library, and then exile once in future. But it has adamant. If at least 3 green mana was spent to cast this, you get to put both those cards into your hand. It's at instant speed. It is a what's it called? Oh my gosh, Eternal Witness at instant speed. It is a regrowth at instant speed. You know, you want to hit that adamant for sure just to get those cards back into your hand. But at the worst case scenario, you do it at someone's end step before your turn. You put one of the cards into your hand and then put the other one on top of your library. It doesn't really matter. Those cards will get to your hand somehow, and it's at instant speed. So it's only like I think like 5,000 decks. I think I checked for most of these cards, and they're about around that range of 5,000 or less. So yeah, just and if you're playing Simic, if you're playing Teamer, you're playing probably Spellslinger for the most part. It's either Spellslinger or a bunch of creatures, right? So it's still definitely worth the check out. And it doesn't say one type card. You can get instant, sorcery, enchantment, artifacts, creatures, blah blah blah. So yeah, try it out, man. It was like one of my favorite cards during Throne of Eldraine. I was like slotting this into almost every green deck that I had, and it's performed really well for the most part. And for the last card we have for this underrated budget video, we have Shaper's Sanctuary. It's 1 green enchantment. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or an ability, an opponent controls, you may draw a card. So turn 1, drop it down, and then your creatures are gonna get picked off by either Generous Gifts, Shaper's Sanctuaries, Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshare, every black instant card under the sun that destroys a creature. At least this way you're gonna get something out of your creatures being removed, and so when they get targeted, at least you're gonna draw a card, and it's at 1 mana. It's kind of good for the most part in any part of the game. It is a little bit more casual because it doesn't do anything when it drops. If this was 1 mana enchantment, draw a card, and then that caveat as well, I think it'd be played a lot more, just because at least cantrips itself. But you know, can't have everything in green, right? But yeah, I think this is gonna be the end of the video. This is gonna be a short one. I just wanted to showcase some underrated cards that are at a budget price for Commander that you might want to go ahead and try and check out, especially if you're a budget player. Definitely try to check these out. I think these will help you a lot. Maybe it'll smooth out your deck a little bit more with at least being able to draw more cards, or just really benefit and have imitations of more expensive cards. Yeah, so guys, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what kind of videos you guys want to see, and we always appreciate you guys. Have a good one.